Everybody, I'm Artosis, and welcome back to Meta. This is episode number 10, and here are my wonderful guests. Of course, we have Iaguz. Welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
Hey man, feeling pretty good. Just been practicing a lot for tournaments.
Oh, that's good. All those Aussie tournaments.
Yeah, we got like a big one in Adelaide coming up in a week or two.
Sick. I can't wait to see
$5,000.
I can't wait to see like 7 Zergs in the top 8. That's going to be awesome. And of course, Idra, how are you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Just
Yeah?
playing and streaming and watching StarCraft.
How's your Terran doing? I heard that you had Juan coaching you.
Yeah, I did. It was the best thing ever. He got into an argument with his mom in Spanish on stream, and there was a thread on top of StarCraft Reddit about how she sounded hot. So that was really fun. And he also
I've seen movies, like for sure Juan's mom is going to be a looker, man. I've seen movies before.
But yeah, no, he obviously knows what he's talking about. So it's a lot. It's half easy or half harder because I have someone who's telling me what exactly to do, but then I have someone telling me what to do, so it's harder to focus.
Yeah.
But it's really productive. Like as soon as he stops talking directly into my ear, then I just apply everything he tells me, and then I just make hellbats and win games. So it's really cool.
Is your Terran doing well?
It's pretty okay. I still haven't gotten to the point where people can outplay me. So as soon as I have a build order, I just kind of win on the strength of clicking quickly. So
okay.
It's kind of too early to tell.
Still grinding up. Are you using your high MMR
No,
ladder
I
account?
have a separate account.
Okay. Is it a barcode or is it a funny ID?
No, it's Limper. You know
yeah.
the Black Company books, the Limper.
I'm the one that tells you to read them. Best
Yep.
books ever. All right. And of course, Pig. I know you had a rough morning, but how are you doing now?
Yeah, pretty good, man. I lost to Jigua in the WCS qualifiers, but there's like 3 more of them this time, and thanks to the new WCS format, I get to wake up at 4 a.m. rather than midnight to play, so it's a slight improvement.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, sick.
It's
4
actually a
a.m.
lot better. Yeah.
You'd rather
Yeah.
play at 4 a.m. than midnight?
It would wake up at 4 a.m. Like, I'd rather start a tournament that goes for 6-7 hours at 5 a.m. because then it's just getting up early. Whereas if you're starting a tournament at 1 a.m. and it goes through till midday, like the previous season's qualifiers, you're just dying at your computer by the end of that.
I guess that makes sense. Well, actually, while we're on that subject, let's take a look at that bracket that you just had to be in, the top 16 of it at least. For Simon, if you want to throw that up. By the way, big cheers to Simon for doing the show today. He's sick as a dog and is in the process of moving. And still, I was like, Simon, we can postpone the show. And he's still here, so give him some love, Simpatico TV on Twitter. But let's take a look at this bracket. And I want to pose a question to you guys, if you all take a look there. So this is the round of 16 onwards of a qualifier for Challenger League. So this is basically like Code B, like you're trying to get into Code A, right, Pig?
Yep.
Okay, so are the Challenger League qualifiers for this season of WCS America harder than Premier League? That's my question for you guys. Take a look at it.
There's a few Smurfs, so if those are all if those are all Kespa B teamers, then it's definitely arguable. I'm not sure what the Premier League is and stuff.
But, taking a look, right? Shigua, that you lost to, Pig, this guy wins a ton of stuff in China. Very good player, obviously. Loner, we've known about him for a long time. Obviously, Select and Tassar, very good. But then you look like TSL Center. He's had a great time recently. Sanai from NS Hoso, actually one of the very good players on that team. Hyun, GSL finalist, come on. Sound, he's been kicking ass. I mean, Byul, Lucky, are you kidding me? Motive, if that's the real motive, which I assume that it is.
It is.
This is actually almost silly. You can't expect to qualify this. It might actually take a couple seasons for players that are actually supposed to be in Challenger League to get there, because so many of these players are going to filter up to the Premier League. I want your guys' thoughts, by the way.
I'm still hopeful. I think if I can get a good bracket where I don't I don't know. Looking at it from my perspective, there's 3 Korean Terrans, I think. And for instance, Sound and Center aren't the strongest TVZ. So for me, I think it's possible if I just play well. But yeah, it's really, really hard for like maybe if you're like, hey, I made it to top 30 GM on NA this season. I'm a college kid. I want to, try and out. Like your chances are really, really low if you're not playing full time. Boom Boom is in there as well. That's like a crazy bracket. Yeah.
Yeah. Which one is Boom Boom in there?
Jonghyuk.
Oh, okay. Damn it. Yeah, he's really good right now, too. By the way, Pig versus Shigua, an Australian versus a Chinese on the American server. What was the lag like in that game?
I'm so used to it. It's like I spent the last week after coming back from DreamHack kind of like raging every Zerg vs Zerg I played because I can't micro banelings really well anymore. But I'm like over it now, and I'm just like we should probably have pretty much exactly the same ping. And yeah, we're both still stupid enough to just go into Ling Bane battles like every game rather than actually try and play safe. But yeah, the handicaps kind of work themselves out. There's so much like anticipating. Like you just kind of run your Zerglings into the Baneling and then click it away like a second ahead of time, and they'll still surround the Baneling and then pull back. So it's a little bit touch and go, man. But yeah, it was good fun.
Wow. Actually, Iaguz, are you going to try any of these qualifiers this season?
Oh, I played in this one. I lost this, like, some random Protoss who plays one of the styles that I can't fucking stand playing against.
What style
it's
is
like
that?
the Guerrilla Storm tactics, where they have an army that is like half the size of yours at all points in the game. So you chase after it because it must be easy to kill, and then 6 Templars come from different directions, and all your units disappear.
I wish I could do that. That is...
Pig's lucky I hit it. I hit that Protoss though. Would have fucked him up if not. We had the same bracket.
Yeah, I destroyed that Protoss the next game, man. That was
Yeah,
played pretty,
yeah,
played
of course
pretty
you
well.
fucking did.
Storm's not so good against Zerg, man.
No, it's not.
Well, that's a crazy bracket, man. I actually feel kind of bad because WCS America is actually just going to be Koreans. You know, it's too bad, but
The NA
let's
Americans.
North Americans.
No Americans.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I'm like, well, I don't think so because I think there's like 5 of them in the whole Premier League. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump on to another topic. Sorry for having to bring that up, you guys. It's a painful thing for you, Pig, I'm sure, having to come and talk about that right after you lose. But let's talk about MLG a little bit here because obviously that happened this weekend. I'll do a little linky for the final bracket for everyone in the chat. Let's see. I'm bad at the internet. Hold on. Here we go. Obviously, a very fun tournament to watch. But let's jump right into some of these strategies, because actually, Iaguz, you had some interesting things to say about Polt's Terran versus Zerg versus Hyun, and whether or not it's actually a Terran versus Protoss build. Can you please elaborate?
Well, okay. Well, you want me to talk about Pult's Game 2 against Deer, the one on Belshire.
Yes, that one too. Yeah.
Well, that was... Well...
So,
like,
which one do you want to start with? Because we got to...
We'll start with that one, because it happened, like, in chronological order. So
Yeah. Okay, so...
first.
Basically, Polt versus Deer, everyone, on Belshire. He went, like... How many... Like, 3 factories. He went Siege Tank, Mass Hellbat, Marauder to kill Deer.
Okay, so... How he opened was 1 racks expand into 2 racks, a factory and a starport. And he built a mine in his medevac. Mostly for scouting, but if he can get lucky and kill probes with the mine, sure, why not? And he had 1 or 2 tanks, which he built before scouting, which I guess is just for safety. And when he scouted, what he saw, like, he knew that he had a Stargate because he'd blocked some oracles. And he saw a Forge, some extra gateways, and a Twilight, which suggests charge lot Templar play. So as soon as he scouted this, he threw down 2 more factories and an armory, and went triple Hellbat, triple Reactor Factory Hellbat, 2 racks Marauder, and a Reactor Starport for Medevacs, and pushed at about 140 supply on 2 base. And this is normally not great against Protoss, because if they open Robo with Colossus, with a lot of Stalkers and Sentries, and that sort of thing, all your Hellbats get roasted trying to walk up to their opponents. But Charge Lots, they run into melee range, which is not smart against Hellbats. So all his shit got roasted and Polt just wrecked him.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a really neat it was a really neat build for the situation, but I don't think it's like a normal build.
Do you think it's something that actually could become normal once you scout that type of building set in the main base? Because I was watching that and I was just like, what in the hell am I seeing here? And it looked like he almost held it a couple times. You know, he had those extra mortals and started chewing through the marauders and stuff, but at the end of the day, just so many hellbats came. I mean, is this something that we're actually going to see pop up? Like, are you going to do this when you scout that, the one forge in the Twilight?
Um, well, it kind of depends on sort of how you're opening. Like, if you're doing 3 racks bioplay, you probably can't move into Hellbats quite so easily. But, yeah, I think certain builds can probably do it. Like, that Reaper expand into, like, Mind Drop. Like, Reaper FE into 1/1/1. If you notice it then. But, like, almost all Protosses are opening Robo. They don't usually open up Twilight like that.
Mm.
I don't know, it's kind of weird. But it's probably one to keep in the back of their head for when they're skipping Robo.
Well,
No.
it's really good against the Immortals, right? Like, obviously, I'm a bit of a TVP
Oh,
noob, but
the Immortals
just they become negligible, like they're money dumps once you've got enough Hellbats out, because all they can do is tickle the Hellbats, right?
Well, Hellbats, Immortals aren't very scary in TvP, like, defensively. They're just bigger stalkers. It's more just like...
Fair enough. Bigger stalkers
played
that take a long time to turn. Try kiting with Immortals. It's the most annoying thing.
Try kiting against concussive shield marauders.
Yeah. Deer did try that. It did not work out, by the way.
Well, it was more just, like, Storm against Hellbats isn't as amazing as Storm on other bio units, and, like, he had a lot of charge lots when Pult hit him, and then he didn't have a lot of charge lots against Triple Reactor Hellbat.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're not opening up Colossus, what are you actually going to do that's efficient against Hellbats?
Cannons.
Yeah, that actually...
But they,
I'm not
but he has
joking, man.
medevacs too.
You go that many on the ground, I'm gonna throw up a bunch of cannons at my front if I don't have
He's-
Colossus.
Nah, he had reactor medevac too.
That is true. That part's gonna be a little bit harder to deal with. Cannons in the main too. Cannon ring, too deep.
Cannon everywhere.
He also was trying to take a third before Pult did, which was probably a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you wanted to go over that one first because of the TVZ that we then saw in the finals against Hyun. Can you explain that a little bit?
So the first 2 games Hyun opened exactly the same. So I think Pult kind of just figured, alright, this is what he's doing. I'm gonna do this TVP build because, I don't know, Triple Reactor Hellbats are good. Like, he had this little marine timing which killed the third, which I thought was like, not... You normally can't do that because they'll have speed or, like, units. They'll have something to stop you, but I think Pult realized that Hyun wasn't prepared for that sort of thing. It looked really weird. Like, when I first saw it, I thought it was just an on-the-fly build that he figured, yeah, this should work.
Do you think it's something he actually...
randomly add Hellbats and, yeah, maybe a tank or 2 and Marauders and, yeah, why not Stim? This should beat, like, Roaches and Banes at this time.
That sounds like Wings of Liberty beta Terrans to me. It's like, well, some of this and a little bit of that, and why not some Stim and also this? And it's like, oh, how do I beat this composition? It's completely new.
The one of every unit strategy.
Did my... Yes. Oh, my God. What was the name of that guy on the ladder? He called it, like, his build, too. He talked about himself in third person. It's like the something build. I can't remember what his name was, but he made, like, one or 2 of every unit.
I thought that was how every Terran played in the beta.
That was, but this guy played like that when the game was out, too.
Oh,
I just remember I would hit him every now and then and just be like, what are these units that you're... What is this? Like, I don't get this. Zergis, did you guys see that game, Pult vs. Hyun? What did you think about that style that he used?
I didn't see that game, but anything that involves Hellbat's pretty scary to me. I don't know. Like, foregoing medevac or Hellbat drops, foregoing the medevacs, I'm not sure if that's really worth having the extra, though. Because, I mean, the medevacs make it like each Hellbat is 2 Hellbats anyway, just because of the healing. And then the ability to drop and harass and actually, like, put your opponent off guard until you do an attack. I don't know. I mean, like against the style Hyun was doing, I think it's very good just because like unit wise, if you actually have enough units to hold that off, you're gonna have 0 drones at your third and nothing that's gonna scale at all into the late game. But that's true against a lot of hellbat based builds. I think this is just another little quirky one. And it's good to mix things up, dude. Like they all have slight little differences, and it makes it hard to hard counter any of them. But I don't think you're going to see this taking over for the hellbat drop into hellbat attack.
Yeah, it's super all in. I just zoomed through the VOD, and that's just such a weird timing. Hyun's on like 4 base on like 75, 80 drones, and it's this 2 base move out. So a big factor in it working in that game was Hyun not scouting with an overseer. He kind of did his first Overlord sacrifice, and then he was like, now I'm just going to do my thing. And Hyun did the exact same thing in pretty much every game. He builds like 20 roaches, 80 drones with like a couple lings, and then he just maxes on Roachling Bane. And when there's that many Hellbats with like a couple tanks and some Stim Marauders, like it just isn't enough stuff. It's kind of that interesting dynamic. Whenever there's any Hellbat composition, if you can't kite away from it, and if you don't have the critical mass as soon as it arrives at your base to start like whittling the numbers down very, very quickly, you just die. Because once they're between your rallies, they're just too beefy to actually be microed against on 2 or 3 fronts. And without that micro, your army's completely ineffective. So I think it's like a really smart timing. I think Pulp must have looked at how Hyun was playing and just saying, he's not scouting in the mid game at all. Let's just go for this incredibly beefy 2 base all in.
Huh. Now, this was basically the same as the TVP build. And that scares me, because as soon as you have a build that you're like, well, I just do this versus the races, and it's like, well, wait, against the races? Yeah, no, against the races, I do this. It's like, I mean, that can't be healthy for the game if there's like, if Pult's like, well, I mean, I'm in the top 4, I'm just doing this build till I win all the money, you know? But it seems like you guys kind of feel like this is something that can be solved reasonably easily. Is that the feeling that you guys are having?
I think going this overboard, yeah. I think the drops are more of an issue, to be honest, in terms of the fact that they're always going to be forcing a reaction. And I was actually kind of happy because I saw that I think it was David Kim posted up something about the Hellbats. And what he pointed out, it was actually spot on for once. It was like, they're just too easy to do. And the guy defending it, to get up the defense appropriate, like they need to invest way too much money way too early on. And then you've just got like, okay, I've invested in all this, and it could be a single medevac with 2 Hellbats that just runs around in a circle, and the Terran's doing a really strong macro build behind it, and yet it still forces this really strong reaction. So, I mean, I think just attacking at the front with Hellbats and walking across is a bit more all in. Like, I think if Hyun even just produced pure Roach rather than Ling Roach once he saw the push coming, I think he might have been able to hold. But I think it's the drops which are the ones which are really kind of, they have this huge damage potential, and it's really, really hard for the defender to kind of toe the line to react just perfectly.
Yeah.
I do think it was much more a stylistic thing. It was like, okay, you're not going to make mutas, you're not going to do anything really except for this Roach-based build that you've been doing every other game. And, you know, Hellbats are going to out-efficient Zergling Roach pretty much every day. So... no, I agree that the drops, even if the drops are setting up an attack, which is the actual thing that does the damage, the reason that happens is because, like he said, the drops just require so much of a response that they're always going to be worth it, no matter how shut down they are. You can have games where the Terran will actually lose 2 medevacs full of Hellbats, but it's still come out ahead just because the minimum amount of defense required costs more than that.
Yeah. You know, you just mentioned, Pig, about if he had gone just roaches, he may have held it. And you were mentioning earlier, before meta, about this is looking kind of standard. Everyone's making like 20 roaches plus. Can you like extrapolate on that a little bit?
It's weird because, I mean, we've all seen the Roach Hydra style, which Stefano started to kind of do at the end of Wings of Liberty. And a lot of people have been doing it not at the top Korean level, but at the top foreigner level. There's been a lot of European guys doing the Roach Hydra. Demaga did it a lot in last season's Premier League. Tifel did it a couple times and beat MVP with it, I believe. So that's kind of coming in, but I think at the top level we're seeing, like, in the finals of tournaments, we saw Snoot at Home Story Cup basically just say, I'm going to take a bunch of bases, I'm not going to get any Spire until like 15, 16 minutes, I'm just going to throw Roachling Bane all over the map, because this is the only way I can continually get my creep spread out and overwhelm your pushes whenever they come. And then Hyun was doing it as well, and I think it's kind of the mixture of Widowmine's really good against Ling Bane, obviously. You can out-micro it to an extent, but Roaches, there's more of an ability to not be looking directly at what's going on, and they're still going to win the battle. Whereas you don't look at your Ling Bane because you're handling a drop or two, and they will just all die to 2 or 3 Widowmines. That and the fact that Hellbats can be, like an armory can be hidden so easily, as well as a starport. I think people are just sick of dying to the huge number of Hellbat timings. So they're just going, let's just get Roaches, let's skip Lair Tech pretty much until much later. And if we can just focus on a couple of Zerg mechanics, 1 being creep spread, and 2 being lava inject, and just try to get up that 84 base kind of economy, let's just try and win with lots of stuff. Let's kind of just try and overwhelm. And that kind of seems to be what I think a lot of Zerg players are being forced into, or that's what the top players seem to be choosing to do at the moment anyway.
I think it's also because it deals with, there's this, actually, I don't know if you even want to call it style, it's just the way that Terrans are playing all the way up and down the skill spectrum right now, is a lot of people really like just getting up to that mid-game, 3 base, 4 gas, get your double upgrades going, have a lot of barracks, and basically just rally, bio, mine, medevac at the opponent's base, right at the edge of creep, and keep pushing the creep back and spreading your mines out, and just figuring that eventually you're going to get a more efficient mine explosion than their Baneling explosions. But that's a pretty fragile style, and if they're going Roachling Baneling, as long as you don't take ridiculous Widow Mine hits on your Banelings, you're going to just wipe them off the map if they're doing that carelessly. And obviously, if you do that against Innovation, he's going to laugh at you and pull back and just defend and then come out with a gigantic 3-3 army. But if you do that against someone who doesn't think quite as much as Innovation, that can kind of just be free win in a lot of situations. And even if it's not, it's still pretty scary. Like, we see a ton of games where if it drags out, but Terran stays on bio and goes I'm going to drop everywhere to counter your Hive Tech option, then they'll just slowly whittle down the bases, but you'll get that big ground army, either Ultras or Roachling Bane with Infestors, and Zerg just sits there looking for that one engagement where they get the perfect fungals, and then Banelings and Ultras just completely destroy everything at ridiculous efficiency. And I don't know, I think that Zergs might be getting to the point where they're kind of just looking for that opportunity instead of trying to play Mutiling Baneling against Widowmine Bio all game, because that's just, it can work, and if you get ahead, it can snowball, and it's doable, but it just feels so much easier to just one time have that Widow Mine hit go off and lose you the game. So I think Zergs might be going for, trying to turn the tables on that.
Okay. Well, that's kind of interesting because Pig started out saying that part of what he was looking at as part of, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, part of why these roach type things are coming up, you felt, Pig, it seemed like it was, well, you're going to have to make some because of some of these hellbat type of ideas. And then Idra just mentioned that this might be a better idea because of the difficulty in playing against the Widowmine type play. So, are these two connected? Are these, because it seems like you two have, slightly different opinions that reach the same point.
I think it's just because roaches are so cost efficient up until the point where you start getting big armies. They're super resource efficient, just not supply efficient. And Terrans are playing very aggressive mid game, whether it be Hellbats or Widowmines. So if you're gonna have to defend something, it's good to have roaches to do it. So either way, roaches are just that beefier mid game unit.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And the point about them pushing on the edge of creep is really important, because with every Terran style at the moment is just really creep spread limiting. And if you lose your creep spread, we've all known for a long time that if you're playing the best Terran, they're gonna spread. The Banelings will never hit anything. So yeah, pretty much I think just that idea of having a big early game army. And if we jump back to the very start of Heart of the Swarm, the MLG tournament, which Life won, you guys will remember, well, you might remember, he actually did a really fast 4-hatch, 5-queen build, where basically he just got up a huge number of lava. And even though he was using Mutiling Bane, it kind of followed the similar principle of I need to be able to get up a ridiculous number of Zerglings by the time the first proper Terran push comes, because otherwise he's going to cut into my creep spread and I'm going to be boned later on in the game. So I got to get up this huge kind of amount of lava, this huge mid-game army. But I think as Terrans have got better with microing and targeting with their Widow Mines, and their builds have got more refined, it's so punishing. As Idra said, if you slip up once, that Widow Mine's gonna just end the game for you. So I think people are just turning to the easier to use composition and probably the more reliable one.
So easier to use and more reliable, but is it in theory, if you're going to execute like really super well with both, is it in theory actually better, or is it just kind of that more reasonable, easy way to deal with it?
I feel like that was.
Sorry, I'll just say I think it's worse in theory if you're playing the best Terrans in the world. That's all. Like I just think they can micro against it in total till they get a bigger army.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it really comes down to the way the Terran plays, because in mass engagements against the pure bio stuff, I think as long as you mix in infestors, once they start to get up to tier 3, like if they have 3/3 and quite a few marauders, you have to have infestors as well. I think that still might be doable if it's not a defensive position, if there's no planetaries involved, if they have to move their Widow Mines around. I think then maybe on par with Mutilating Baneling, maybe one's a little better. Probably just comes down to control and whatnot. But I think the real danger is there. You're inviting Terran to sit back and drop and put up planetaries and go defensive and go into mass air, Ravens and BCs and Vikings, maybe a little bit of a Bioforce under it, stuff like that. And I think that has no response to it. And the big difference, though, is that Mutilating Baneling, if it gets an advantage, it can really limit the Terran because you have such mobility and you can just take map control. You can just shut down drops with your mutas and whatnot. And then you can get up to Hive and then you can just wipe them off the map, even if they're playing super defensively. Roachling Bane, if you can't overwhelm them, if they sit behind planetaries with Marauders and building walls, you're not going to be able to force them out of the game unless you have a much bigger advantage. And so the reason I always feel uncomfortable with it is a lot of Terrans don't do it. A lot of Terrans play the simpler style, but I'm always afraid that, you're going to run into a Terran like Fuser or something who's willing to just sit there and play the hour-long game and go for those PCs. And if you go Roachling Bane, I don't think you have a way to force the game to end before it gets to that point. And then I don't know a good way to cost-efficiently deal with that situation.
Now, this is really interesting because I haven't heard anyone say that the Roachling Bane, like what you're saying about the BC thing, switching into BC Raven, and of course, if you do get those two up together, it's going to be quite nice. But Iaguz, have you ever tried that type? Like, do you ever turtle it out against that type of unit composition and go for something like a Sky Terran?
A few months ago, I did that every now and then, particularly on the old Newkirk map, where pushing was difficult, but turtling and dropping was
quite good.
Fun. Yeah, it was pretty good. But I don't know. Recently, I've just been really tunnel visioned in biomining people to death, and that if I'm not killing them with biomine, then I'm probably just fucking something up there, and I should biomine better. But there's no reason why Sky Terran should be bad. Like, once you actually get the proper Sky, like the Raven Battlecruiser army out, I don't think Zerg have units that can beat it.
It's just a matter of getting there. It's the same as like Protoss not going Sky Toss, and any Zergs who kind of didn't do Lord Infestor towards the end of Wings. It's just you sit there for a long ass time. It's really boring, and if you mess up, it just feels so silly because it's like, well, I invested all this time and I got destroyed because I had this one little chink in my armor.
Yeah, that's actually another thing as well. Playing 40-minute Sky Terran games every TVZ is fucking boring.
It's draining. Yeah,
I can't practice that.
Sounds like something Beyond would really enjoy. Pig, what do you think about this? The BC switch after the Roach Bane.
I'm not that strong against Terran. That's something I readily admit, as I'm quite weak against them, and I often find myself pretty lost if they get up to that stage. But if I'm playing a really good Terran, that is, like, so often though, you'll see these players and they get like 6-7 Ravens, and then they just come out onto the map and try to like PDD your Seeker Missile your Infestors. And you just kind of like run out of range and then keep chaining the fungal and kill them all, and they've just wasted all that gas. But occasionally you get one who's just really patient, really good with their drops, and they get the BCs up and they're really good at using PDDs. They don't let you do the thing where they seek a missile in your Corruptor and then you run their Corruptor into their units and it blows them all up. The best Terrans don't let you do that, unfortunately. So I think it's super powerful. It always has been, because the Mule, you're struggling against supply once you get in the late game against Terran. If they get the good upgrades on the air, they get the Raven, which does better than the Infestor in the late game battles, generally speaking, if they spread them out, don't let them get chain fungled. Yeah, I think that's super, super powerful. I think it's always been Zerg's job, though, to never let someone just get to this point where they can just do that freely. Like, you should always get to a point where why aren't, how are they able to defend enough bases to actually get up to there? Because you're Zerg, you can charge in with Ultras and Banelings and these hyper-mobile forces. You can even do crazy things like big meter-tech switches, so... I think it's really scary when you play a Terran who's really well practiced at just defending. Like, I'm just going to spread out and build walls. I'm going to put planetaries in really strategic locations. But I think even then, there normally are weaknesses. There are like ways to get in with like, let's morph 100 Banelings with our bank and get on top of their production. That sort of stuff can work really well. So yeah, you don't see Terrans get to mass air very much, but when they do, it's crazy difficult to play against. Yeah.
Just kind of throwing this out there, theoretically, guys, if a Terran goes Sky Terran and gets like a really solid composition up for it, what is Zerg actually supposed to do against that? Because even as Protoss, there's like really big issues with each composition you might use against Sky Terran because of just kind of the strengths of it. Especially
Really? I thought Templar Tempest killed everything.
Well, the thing is, if they have ghosts mixed in too, you have a hard time, and PDDs stop Tempest attacks, which are the slowest attacks in the whole fucking game, so you can have issues. You can't, not as much as what I think Zerg might have, but what would be the, like, how do you actually end up battling that?
I generally try to avoid playing it. Like, Corruptor Queen Infestor, Hydra Queen Infestor, I don't know. The problem is, it's just really, if they get to that situation, you're in trouble. Nothing is super efficient against it. You have to be able to overwhelm them. So if you get the Terrans who are like super, super patient on split maps like Newkirk or kind of Akalon, Daybreak, stuff like that, because you're not attacking into it, that's for sure. If there's planetaries and turrets involved, you are not winning that battle. And so if they're willing to just kind of creep forward, and if it's a map that allows them to do that, I honestly don't think the best chance is just dropping around it and hoping you manage to do enough damage to put them all in, and then overwhelm them with a couple of waves.
Pig, what do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't get to play it very often, but I think Queens are a must. Yeah, obviously they're so beefy. They've got the transfuse. The real trick is supply efficiency, and what's really hard is, as always in StarCraft, it's often not about this unit versus this unit. It's about how do you get to the economy to get X unit and Y unit. And with Zerg in late game against Terran, it's how do you get enough economy that you can sack a lot of your drones and get down to about 40 drones, just harvesting a lot of gas. You got to get this huge mineral bank first. You got to get some good air upgrades. And I feel like well spread out Corruptors obviously do decently well, but with PDDs around, it can be really difficult. So it often ends up just a lot of Corruptors, Queens, and a lot of Infestors, because they're the most supply efficient units you can get. I like Broodlords as well, though their usefulness is kind of questionable, just because they do only cost, like, what is it, 4 supply for a Broodlord?
Yeah.
Something like that. I think it's
better, but you should know.
I should know, yeah. I think it's only 2 more and a Corruptors 2. So yeah, I mean, a couple of Broodlords, like, you just got to be insanely cost efficient, and then if they're silly enough to seek a missile, you've got to be really, really good at grabbing those red Corruptors and just pulling them forward into their army. And you can do things like bait out like 20 PDDs and pull back. It's kind of same with seeker missiles. But you need then to have a different area where you can engage like a minute later while their energy is still low. So it's really tricky, but I think Queen, Corruptor, Infestor. And then you kind of got to look at how much ground they have. And like I said, like a couple of Broodlords to clean up what's on the ground is nice. But you've also sometimes got to have mobile detection for ghosts. So bringing spores into battle. Sometimes you just have Ultralisks and you just kind of charge through trying to sweep on top of their production. And then you do the remax on the Corruptor, Queen, Infestor. But I think one way or another, you can't let them build a planetary turret wall and just sit behind it on half map. If you can contain them to 4 base and they've got their wall, that's kind of okay if you're harvesting gas off 7 bases. But once again, you've got to choose your window to sacrifice your drones and go for your big attack really, really well, or it's just going to get out of control.
Okay, now this is going to be a complete out-of-my-ass theory crap because I've never seen it. and I don't play ZVT, but I feel like couldn't you do something against a Sky Terran Turtley composition with a hell of a lot of swarm hosts, just like you can do against Protoss?
Not really. Swarm
No?
hosts aren't great. Well,
Well, if you
It's
have
like,
if you have
what- well,
25
what do you- okay.
of them,
well,
because if you're sitting behind
depends on what
Static D and you have Vipers, right, and you have like some anti-air there and 25 swarm hosts.
it depends on what the Terran is doing to get there. Like, if he's just playing really passive mech into Sky, like, Swarm Hosts are they're good against mech, and Vipers are also good at, like, pulling away tanks if they're trying to just be defensive with those. But if they're playing like what Pult was doing, which is this really fluid bio style, it never really commits aggressively, but is always doing drops and is always attacking creep and is always keeping the Zerg kind of scared. You can't make Swarm Hosts against that.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
right.
but how about specifically if they already have invested a lot into Sky Terran? Can it work against that? Now, I know Terran has the magical scan, so you can't kill the detection, but I'm
You
just
don't need
wondering, because
scan.
like against Protoss Sky, like that's the ultimate thing is when you get a lot of Swarm Hosts and Stag D with Vipers, you know?
It depends at what point you hit Swarmhost critical mass and how much
Mhm.
flying units the Terran has. But like the flying Terran units do pretty good against Swarmhosts. It's not like they can shoot up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
BCs, I feel, are better at cleaning up locust waves than the Protoss areas. And then also there's the fact that, Terra Medevac harass, I would say, is more effective than, more cost efficient and more effective and faster, just generally scarier than War Prism harass. You have 4 Marauders in a Medevac or 8 in 2 Medevacs running around. You're probably going to lose hatcheries unless you invest a lot more in static defense. I mean,
Yeah.
Zealots and Warp Prisms plus Warpins and stuff, those are strong too, but it just feels like Terran can do more with that without really messing up everything else they're doing.
Okay.
I think it's really smart. I think it's ultimate
be.
late game. Whenever you're talking about swarm hosts and ZBT, it's like this kind of mythical tech switch, which will happen very rarely. So it's like it's so hard to practice, which is I think the reason we might never see it, or very very rarely, unless you're watching maybe Cats was saying that swarm. You reckon swarm hosts is like ultimate in any matchup, and I'm like, yeah, well that's true because their range is so insane, but. I don't know. I think technically there's nothing Terran can do. Imagine you got like 20 spores, you got your 16, 20 swarm hosts, you got some vipers. Terran can't do anything against that. No one can.
Unless we have like a mass like Raven battlecruiser army, like
Even
that
then, if-
Zerg units can't kill.
If there's enough static
Well,
defense, I don't know.
what are you going to do with that army though? Like you're going to get whittled down.
Kill
and then
everything. It's amazing.
There's going to be fungal growths will just land on your stuff. You'll get
Fungus don't do damage.
abduct-
They nerfed them.
Yeah, it holds them back while you
Fungus tickle
abduct.
shit now. I'm not afraid of Zerg units when I'm going Sky Terran. Shit's amazing.
I don't know. With enough static defense and enough just spell abuse, like you sit here under my fungal, and then I'll take you one at a time into my 20 spore crawlers. I could see maybe, but I don't know. It's just so impractical to actually get to that point. Although to be fair, it's kind of impractical for Terran to get up to Sky Terran as well. But I think it's more practical to get to BC Raven than to get to mass static defense with swarm hosts and Vipers and investors, because it's not like Protoss where you can go swarm hosts right away. Like Jared said, it's mythical kind of. You have to do this late game once bio is not a threat anymore. Because if you go swarm hosts against bio, you're asking for a bad time.
That is true. I had to throw that in there because I feel like the swarm host static D Viper Infester type of play is like it's like a perfect composition mech in StarCraft 1 or a perfect composition carrier High Templar in StarCraft 1 where it's like no, nothing beats this. This wins everything in every matchup. Sorry, I don't know. So all right, on to the next little subject after that crazy Sky Terran versus Swarmhost discussion. Never thought we'd get into that. You guys have anything else from MLG that really stuck out to you as like super cool?
It was kind of sad because every time I tuned in, it felt like there wasn't a Zerg playing. Hyun obviously got to the finals, but other than Jadon, I don't know. It just felt like I never got to see any Zerg games.
Yeah, it was pretty Terran and Protoss heavy there towards the end. In fact, you know, in the final bracket, Yu-Gi-Oh lost right away, then Sue only won one match, and then Jaedong did okay, and then it was just Hyun. So yeah, there was just not that many Zergs up top, I guess.
Well, they
For
were
once.
showing as many Pult games as they liked once they realized people really liked Pult.
No, that's true. He is the American hero.
Yeah, and then they chanted USA like every time.
Yeah, that's
It was
Well, they
that's
did
the
hilarious.
that.
way
They
it
did
is.
that for Stefano too. So he's
Exactly.
the Koreans taking over for the Frenchmen is the national hope for America.
We are the cultural melting pot, you know.
This
It
is true.
doesn't matter where you're originally from. Once you're in America, you're American. Or, you know, of course that happened to Stefano when he was in Korea, but that's fine. He was on Team America. You know, speaking of foreigners, we did have 4 foreigners making it that top part of the bracket. That's on Team Liquid. I guess what I consider the top part of the tournament. You know, pretty standard with the players that we got up there. What do you guys think about how Nanoa performed this weekend? Because once again, he got like really super deep. This is the second big one in a row in which he did this. Any?
I don't think I saw any of his games.
Yeah, I didn't see that
unfortunately.
many actually.
I only watched his games against Pult,
Hmm.
which Pult really knew what to do against him. He
Yeah.
played differently than like against Deer. He played kind of reckless and a bit, maybe not reckless, but like he was a little greedier in game 1. He did that wacky timing attack in game 2.
Mm.
Every game against Naniwa was just really safe, scouting heavy play, just relying on his multitask and the fact that, like, you can't get thirds as Protoss against Pult. He doesn't let you.
Mhm. Yeah, he is highly aggressive. Actually, I like what you said there because I think that's a big part of why Polt ended up winning this is he actually played the player correctly. Like took more risks against the Kesva players than played very standard solid against a foreigner, you know? And that's just
Well, Naniwa was doing a lot of like timing attacks and a lot of funky stuff with DTs and stuff that it's good to be playing safe against.
yeah. And
He even
well, I
scouted
mean,
his proxy on that one game he did a proxy. Like, how do you know?
well, he's Polt, man. The American hero. It makes sense. All right, well, I think we can get off of MLG for now. Maybe jump into a little bit of WCS Korea talk. But actually, first, let's jump to a really quick commercial. I guess that's a good midway point. So, guys, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Pros always want to have gear that's exactly fitted to their needs.
Something I've always dreamed about doing is using my experience as a gamer to make gear for people like me.
We're working with TT Esports to make the exact mouse, keyboard, and headset that we've always wanted to use.
When you're doing anything that you love to do, the tools that you're using matter the most.
We're designing these products from scratch to make sure that your gaming experience is completely seamless. The gear I use to play the game
Are the tools I use to win.
Hey guys, welcome back. It is part 2 of Meta, episode 10. And it's now time to start. Yeah, hold on 1 second. I hear a reverb. Okay, there we go. Thanks, Simon. You're the best. So let's talk about WCS Korea Season 2, but the first thing I want to talk about is Hiva against Leenock, because I felt really dumb, and I cast a lot of games, and I feel dumb in a good amount of them, but I felt really dumb in this one, because basically Leenock opens hatch first. Was this on Belshare, Pig? I'm trying to remember.
Belshare Vestige, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so he opens up hatchery first, and Hiva opens up 10 pool Baneling. I'm like, oh, okay, so normally what's going to happen here is a couple spines, cancel the hatch, spread the drones, and you're going to be fine. Greg, you would agree with this? This is basically the way you would deal with this if you hit this on the ladder?
If I see it coming, as soon as I figure out it's banelings, I cancel the natural hatchery, put down 2 spine crawlers. Actually, there's this thing where I hotkey like 3 drones apiece to 0, 9, 8, 7, 6, whatever, so I can just split them out as fast as possible. But yeah, otherwise it's just trying to minimize how many drones die before their banelings are gone.
Okay, perfect. Because, see, I said that on the cast, and I'm like, all right, I'm commentating well today. And then, Pig, why don't you run us through what fucking happened in that game that shattered my reality?
It was actually so funny because he just comes in, and Leenock actually did quite an original spawning pool placement. He put it in front of the hatchery, and a lot of players have been putting it behind because they don't want it to get focused down with some of these early pools because they don't want to be forced to fight with their drones to save the pool. Instead, he just smacked it in front and left a little hole behind it, and he just tucks his queen in there and says, "What up? You got to run past me to get at the mineral line unless you go all the way around," which you don't have time to do that. Temple Baneling, you got a small window to get damage done. Queen pops out of the natural, wedges it between the minerals, and then he proceeds to mineral walk pairs or 3 at a time drones just through the lings and veins from mineral line to mineral line. And you can see Hive's brain just exploding because he's like damaging every drone, and then they're just like running off, and he's like, "Do I chase them? There's still 3 more drones mining here." And he like goes for them, and then they just mineral walk through, all get to yellow life, and there's like 10 more drones that are mining on the natural. So he gets down there, and they all mineral walk like 2 or 3 at a time to the main, and the queens are just taking shots the whole time. And then all his stuff's dead, and like, okay, Leenock probably lost 5 drones, and the workers lost tab pops up, and it's 0 drones have been killed.
Yeah.
And then Hive's like follow-up attack just gets completely
So-
owned. It was horrible and awesome at the same time.
And just to reiterate this to everyone, so what the previous understanding for at least myself and Idra was, and perhaps Pig as well, cancel the hatchery, 2 spines, spread your drones, minimize damage. Leenock kept his hatchery, made 1 spine, and lost 0 drones.
That sounds a little bit more efficient than my way. Yeah.
It's a little bit more efficient, and I don't understand. Like, was this completely a fuck up by Hiva? Is Leenock a god? Is Tenpool Baneling going away? Because if this can be actually done like this, Tenpool Baneling has no meaning anymore, I think. What do you Zerg players think about this?
It feels like every Korean ZVZ I watch now is 15 hatch versus 15 hatch, which kind of makes me think that, because Temple Bane is like the traditional hard counter to it. So it kind of makes me think that maybe amongst Korean, like in the practice games on the ladder, it's becoming more and more defensible. I don't know. I'd have to see the game to say for sure. It definitely sounds like the kind of thing where Hiva just is like, this is what's supposed to happen. Where do I actually get the damage done? And maybe if he knows what to do, then maybe he can do it. Because I don't know. Because actually letting that hatchery finish kind of messes things up for the defender. You have way less resources. You can't immediately get all of your queens and spine crawler and your speedling upgrade, and as well as 6 to 8 zerglings. And so maybe 8.
Oh, there's like, just no spine crawler, no gas. It's best for the 15 pool gasless, of course. But yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, there are weaknesses to it. Maybe if you just recognize that and you're like, okay, I'm not going to chase him around. I'm just going to sit here and get the damage done. He's not going to have as much of a follow-up as someone who's getting speedling right away or who has 2 spine crawlers to keep him absolutely safe. Maybe it was just Hiva flipping out. But I can't say for sure without seeing it.
Okay.
Yeah. I really wanted to practice it, but then I remembered that I live in Australia, so I always go to like juke the banelings, and then they just blow up my drones anyway. I think though, like if you practice it, you can kind of even with delay, I can probably do it because it seemed very organized the way Leenock kind of just would run a couple of drones through at a time, and it's literally just like you've got your hatches either screen capped or hotkeyed, and you're just kind of grabbing drones and mineral walking them from one to the other. So the micro, once it's practiced, is actually really quite simple. And I think really important is just getting the queens in a key position where they can kind of cover everything and then just keep on building slow zerglings. And his idea was just, I'm not going to invest in spines at all. And I don't know, I think it seems like if you're as good as Leenock or if you've practiced that enough, like you're safe to hatch first every single game. So I think we're going to see that a lot more.
So, because if this is like a reproducible thing, because Idra, you have a very good point where if you know where to do the damage, maybe you can still get it. Now, if there's not a place to do the damage, then what we saw Leenock do once people all figure out how to do it shouldn't it make ZVZ so that hatchery first is the only opening? Or
Absolutely.
is there, like, right?
Temple Baneling. There's other temples. If you just do like the temple where you get up to about 16 supply and you put down a hatchery, you don't get speedling or any of that. you go and you for sure kill the hatchery, and then you get
Yeah,
your
that's
faster
true.
expansion.
Okay.
That's not nearly as much of a hard counter as Temple Baneling was. Like I can play that from the hatchery side of things and still feel pretty okay. It's just you just have to know to let the hatchery finish and get your speedling out pretty quickly, and then either just like judge the situation whether or not you want to make lings and all in him or just not and go into a macro game. It's like judgment calls and it ends up pretty even usually on average. It's not like Temple Baneling where like usually you can kill them as long as you control correctly. So I would definitely say the matchup becomes like 90-95% 15 hatch if that's actually reproducible.
That's crazy, man. To
It's
narrow.
awesome. To finally
Is
get
it-
rid of the fucking rock paper scissors bullshit. Yes. it's
Well,
amazing.
yeah, no, I understand the hatred of a rock paper scissors type of opener, but is it actually good to bring a matchup to one opener?
When the level of opening we're talking about, like the amount of the game that actually goes into it is as simple as do I get my hatchery by 2 minutes and 10 seconds or not, then yeah, I think it's absolutely fine. Like
Okay.
It's not an area of the game where you can have any kind of meaningful strategical decisions made. Like there's no scouting information. You're not reacting to what your opponent's doing. You're not playing mind games with them. It's just purely like, do I know how my opponent plays on here, and what do I think he's going to do, and can I get a free win out of it or not? Like,
Okay.
I don't feel there's any value in having the diversity at that point in the game.
All right, that seems actually fair enough for me. Pig, do you agree with that?
I think old Pig from like a year ago did, but I think I've been forced to play this. Sorry, I just got some ad pop up on my computer and talk to me. Yeah, I've been forced to play this game for so long that I feel like I've really embraced the kind of poker aspect of StarCraft 2, where there's a lot of just calling people's bluffs, analyzing how people play, figuring out when you think they're going to do things. And I think one of my strengths is figuring out exactly when people are going to do what opener in ZVZ. So it's something where like part of Zerg vs. Zerg for me has become literally just a mixture of researching my player well and just kind of understanding the situation well enough that I feel like I can get the advantageous opener well over 50%. So for me, it's kind of like now, like, if it does go become just hatch first, that's that's that. But that's actually okay. I don't mind that at all. It would actually be kind of cool because you'd be able to focus more on refining specific set plays rather than playing Zerg vs. Zerg so reactive from so early on in the game. So I reckon that'll be really, really interesting. You'll have much, much more solid mid games rather than people going into it 10 drones behind and just losing slowly.
Yeah. And that certainly has a lot to do with you living in Australia with one Terran, one Protoss, and 100 Zergs or so.
Two Terrans. At least two.
Yeah,
That's,
Glade basically just came and got the entire country pregnant with little Zerg babies, and that's pretty much all there is now.
He spread his spores, man. All right. So let's jump in and actually talk about WCS Korea and what's going on with that, because I definitely wanted to go over that ZVZ overall. But let's just kind of review anyways, because the first group stage is done, which was best of one. And, we had some big players fall, like SOS fell down, Life fell down, Leenock and Roro both fell down. But, those are the only ones I would say, like, ooh, that's painful, right? So, the best of one, even though no one really likes it, it didn't actually, I don't think a higher percentage of expected players to go through actually fell out than in the best of three format. Does anyone disagree with that?
I think it's close enough that it's not really debatable.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it favored different players, but it didn't necessarily make worse players get through or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the round of 16 is a bunch of unwatchable nobodies who cheese their way there. Like,
Yeah.
still pretty reasonable.
Flash and Innovation got through. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I don't think they were ever in danger. You could have probably just flipped a coin to see if they went forward, and they still would have won that, no problem. So, in group stage number 2, we did just start playing the games, and one thing I want to bring up with Iaguz, have you ever seen a PVT? Wait, did you watch First play last night? Have you caught that yet?
Oh,
First
no,
versus...
no, I went to sleep.
Oh
as soon
shit,
as
you
that
need to
happened.
watch that. You need to
No,
actually
Fantasy
watch
Correct.
that.
I don't want to watch that.
Oh god, if you want to see a Terran get completely fucking owned, then watch Fantasy against First, because damn, I wish you hadn't gone to sleep last night. Oh, that is the cutest baby I've ever seen. Yeah, you know, cutie. So, anyways, what a cute little girl.
I think I watched like a little bit of game one, and it didn't look like anything was coming up fantasy.
Dude, all right, I guess we can't really discuss it right this second, but it is the strongest PvT I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, First looked better than Parting and Rain. It was insane.
Shit, that's high praise.
Yeah, it was the Buki build. That's right. The Buki
The
build.
Buki build?
One of every build. Buki. I think it was Buki or something. But
Right.
but yeah, no, it's
That sounds,
the best
yeah.
best PvT I've ever seen, and Iaguz, just later on watch it and message me if you see anything that Fantasy could have fucking done to beat him, because he looks unstoppable. But let's talk
Fuck, I
about
hope
some.
not. People are going to start doing that.
I don't think
struggle
they
enough
can,
with
man.
PvTs
He
as
was he was so good. Oh my god. Oh, so all right. I'm
All I'm remembering.
I'm like
is
flustered
that-
over. I'm like, guys, it's so good. I wish I could do it. It's so powerful. Oh my god.
All I'm remembering of the first game is First kept having units exactly where Fantasy tried to put Metavacs, and he was just
Huh.
dropping directly onto Zealots.
He basically map hacked. He saw everything the entire games, and like he was everywhere, harassing and poking at the same time, never committing. It was like the most beautiful, like choreographed PvT stuff. Oh my god, I'm
Yeah, that
bonkers
gets-
about it.
That gets so hard to deal with when a Protoss never really commits and just waits for the Terran to do it,
Hmm.
because he assumes that his Terran opponent is worried about like Protoss having all the things that he wants.
Well, I guess we'll talk about First another time. I guess we can talk about some of these Zergs. So, did you guys happen to catch Soul Key Symbol? No one's
think
watched
so.
the VOD yet. This was just last night. This was
Yeah.
this was a bad thing for me to bring up. Okay,
Yeah.
it's okay. We'll talk about these games next week when people have actually watched.
I had that playing in the background. There was like a Nidus into a counter Nidus play.
Yeah,
Really?
it was pretty cool. Yeah, it's actually very much worth watching that match there. The counter Nidus by Sulky was pretty, like a 3 Roach Nidus while he's defending Simple's crazy Queen Roach. It was actually really good games last night. Very, very fun. Did you happen to watch the TBT Iaguz?
Yeah, I watched. We discussed this in the pre-show. Yeah, I watched all 3 games. I didn't watch the first one very closely because it was Mech v Mech, but I did watch the second and third. I'm really surprised that Bomber won Game 3 quite as easily. Like, Korean Ladder Star Station, it's not really quite as... It's not been as popular for the past week or two, but a while ago, every game was 2-Rax Reaper.
Mm.
And, like, it was Byung, right? Byung
Yeah.
saw the first Rax, and he saw the gas, and he saw the orbital wasn't timed properly. And he looked around like, where's the Rax? Oh, I guess Bomber just made a mistake or something.
Yeah.
That's surprise, Reapers. And I don't really do 2-Rax Reaper a lot myself, and I hate to sound a little bit like pig here, but I live in Australia. Because when you're doing Reapers against Marines, you have to do like this really quick shoot and scoot. And I can shoot, but I ain't got much scoot. And that's a problem.
You don't look like a guy with much scoot, to be perfectly frank.
Is that
But
a compliment? I'm not sure.
I don't even know, man. But yeah, the 2-Rax Reaper, I felt like he actually should have done even more damage with that. I felt like
Oh, he
his
pretty much-
execution was slightly
looked-
off.
Oh, he killed like 8 SCVs. That's a good number.
I'm not saying he didn't do a lot. I felt like he could have just secured a victory with that almost, because there was so little there when he started. But
Yeah,
what do I know?
I think so. Yeah, he made like a reactor at some point when he had like
Yeah.
3 or 4 Marines. Yeah, I think that... I'm trying to remember my games. I'm pretty sure that killed me. You have to make like non-stop Marines without a reactor. That's the first step in holding it.
Yeah.
And the second step is just good positioning. And then eventually maybe you make a Hellion.
But it was
I was really surprised.
it was actually a pretty good series, I would say, overall.
Yeah.
I like
Trying
that
to
TV.
remember- I was trying to remember game 2. Bomber opened with like Banshees or some shit. Or like a mind drop
Let's
into
see.
Banshees. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
mind
yeah,
drop
yeah.
into
He
Banshees.
went on Belshire. He went mind drop into Banshees, and everything just got fucking shut down. Like it was bad.
And he tried to go like and all I remember was interesting about that one is he never made a reactor on the starport. Like he went no medevacs, he just kept that in cloaked Banshees to bait scans. Which
Yeah.
is interesting. I mean
Oh yeah, yeah. That's he actually because that was interesting. Because he actually went like Marine Marauder with Stim, but he had no medevacs like the whole game. He was just hyper aggressive. That was definitely a
yeah.
weird different style. Like Bomber was
Ha-
showing a lot
if
of
you're
cool
gonna
stuff.
if you're gonna be doing that, then your fights need to end very quickly.
Mm.
Because you can't keep stimming and you can't fight a longer fight.
Yeah. But as we all
It was-
know, you can't fight against mech with bio. And that game didn't.
You
work
totally
out that
can, shut up.
well.
Gonna make-
Oh, I
You just
love
need
you.
hellbats of your own, right?
It's true.
Dude, I do like I put the Hellbats in the medevacs. They don't heal bio in fights. They're like giving them a taste of Hellbat drops. Just it's better than dropping bio on tanks.
Well, do you think that Bomber has any chance at actually getting out of that group that has innovation and flash in it?
Probably
no,
not.
not really.
No,
Probably not.
probably not. So that group is just already done. Poor Byung, like the one guy he might have been able to beat, no go.
Yeah, flash and innovation. They'll get through.
All right, I think everyone in the whole world probably agrees with that. But the one group I really want to like approach you guys about is Group A: Sulky, Sue, Symbol, and Parting. How does this group end up going, especially with my Zerg experts here? That's like kind of a fucking crazy one right now.
That is pretty crazy. Sulky going up 1-0 on Simple.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyone can really win that. Sue, I'd say, is by far the weakest, but
Sue's been doing
It's not-
really well recently.
yeah, that's the thing. I think he's still the weakest, even given that.
Yeah,
Although
that's
maybe Symbol, maybe him and Symbol are like fighting for the bottom two, but they're both totally capable of winning it. I don't know. I'd just say Sulky Parting based on
Yeah.
common logic, past performances.
Common
but,
logic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's
Pig-
a
That
really
is
hard
really
group to
interesting.
call. I don't know, like, ZVP, I feel, is so odd. I feel like I don't really understand what to expect whenever I'm watching top Korean level Zerg vs Protoss. Like, it's so dependent on the styles they play, and I feel like there's still so many people. Like, I feel like a lot of the Zergs at the moment, and I think it kind of explains why Protoss win rates are so good against Zerg in Korea at the moment, is they kind of like, well, I'm going to build this insane amount of drones, and I'm just going to delay my gases a really long time in the early game, and I'm going to try and, win in the mid to late game. And I feel like there's so many, like, Protoss builds which are just punishing them for it. Like, the number of times in the last few weeks where I've seen Zergs lose a third base or lose a lot of drones to just some sneaky Zealot warps in, Zealot warp-ins, paired with, like, Phoenix or Oracle harass. There's so many crazy Phoenix or Oracle and Zealot harasses, and it's doing more damage than I think it should be. But it seems to be working. Like, the Zergs seem to be afraid to play any more conservatively or build some more Zerglings and actually hunt pylons down properly, which is the one thing we're seeing. I think far too many top Zergs just let pylons get up outside their base, which is kind of silly. I don't think you really have any excuse for that to happen.
Do you think that fear is egged on by the ridiculous two-base times that we've been seeing with like double Colossus and sometimes double Immortal as well? Because that's like I have to agree with you. So many of the games that I'm trying to study to learn better PvZ for myself involve a pylon getting up, and I'm like, I mean, I'm I don't know. I'm not the best player in the world, but I'm pretty sure that the pylon doesn't always get up. No matter how good you are.
That metagame, man. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, the time warp is so powerful, and there's always this like gap where you're playing a really, really top-notch Protoss, and it feels insane when they do those timings. And you play the ones that are even slightly worse, and it's a completely different ball game. Just because the difference on where you land your time warps and your force fields, like a slight difference, is so big. So you play someone at Parting's level, and it's scary like you've got to, yeah, you really want to try and push your advantages early on. That being said, I think like 4 extra slow Zerglings early on isn't a big expense. So I think a lot of players are just being like too greedy at the moment. But I think parting comes out of there probably. Has he been doing the mass air style? Have any of you guys watched his Zerg vs Protoss? Protoss vs Zerg?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't really sky toss.
I've never seen him do it. It seems very against his normal style too.
Yeah,
He seems very comfortable with 2-base aggression or just like in your face mass ground armies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not much of a sky tosser at all.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I think, I think Symbol will probably beat Sue. So there's going to be like that weird kind of fight there. And then depending on how they go against Protoss, yeah, I think parting Sulky probably will make it out though. Sulky, I would bet on. I would bet good money on Sulky making it out. He has a really, really good Zerg vs Zerg.
No. Can't really argue with Sulky actually. I mean, these are all pretty accurate assumptions unless parting doesn't do what parting normally does. Should be those two, I would say. What about this this little group C here? It's got everyone's races, so we can all talk about it a little bit better. First, obviously, crushing fantasy, and the thing is, we just saw like interviews from top world Terrans, and actually, I think Rain said in his interview that he can't really beat fantasy, and he's afraid of him after he won his group last week. I'm pretty sure that was him that said that. He's like, yeah, fantasy's like one of the best Terrans in the whole world. I don't even know what to do against him. And Rain looked godly in that PvT, but then first like made him look like a scrub. So which 2 players actually get out of here? Like, does Hiva actually have any shot in this group?
I didn't think so, but last time we said he didn't really have much of a chance either. I don't know. Cheese can work wonders.
In best of 3 format, though.
Yeah. The odds are certainly super, super low for him.
No.
I don't know. It's kind of cool because I think I don't know, 2-3 shows ago we discussed how First got like a little bit of hype from the IM in-house people, and he's had little flashes of brilliance, and everyone's saying he's maybe actually one of the best Protoss in the world if he could actually show it. And now it seems like he's kind of starting to show it. Although on the other end of the stick, you can never take too much, or never put too much credit into teammates saying things about other teammates, because on one hand, of course, you're going to hype up your teammates, and on the other, you know, they know your style really well. If you're stylistic at all, if there's anything that can be abused about you, they're going to abuse it. And sometimes it can be way harder. Like Rain versus Fantasy may feel way, way harder for Rain than Rain against Innovation. And then in reality, or at least against everyone else in the world, that's not really going to be the case. But I would say probably First in Fantasy, because if Rain says that, I believe that Fantasy beats him in every practice game. I don't think he just like made that up.
That's
and
a good
so then they
point.
have to play each other, and I think Fantasy beats him. I think everyone just shits on Hiva.
I give it a second. Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption. Yeah.
Yeah. Iaguz, what are your thoughts? Is Fantasy going to come out and kill a nerd?
If he wants. I think I'm actually watching that game. Well, like, you start talking ZVZ, so I'm like, alright, I'll start watching this first game now, so I sort of zoned out a little, sorry.
Oh, that's no problem.
I don't know, I don't really rate, like, I don't keep, like, rankings in my head of most players, unless they're super amazing Terrans. So, like, to me it's just completely random, I don't really care.
So you don't really consider Fantasy like one of the guys you look to copy and stuff? Not as much.
I don't know. He's usually doing stuff that's really cute and prepared. And like you can get some fun games out of him, like that series against was it True?
True, yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. But
yeah.
I don't actually watch fantasy that much.
Yeah.
So
that's right. Your TVZ is very much just I got to do better with my Widow Mines.
Well,
I've never seen anyone so obsessed with Widow Mines as you, Iaguz, I have to say.
What?
You should try 3 factory Widow Mines instead of 2, man. That's what you should do. Revolutionize.
I don't know. I've never gone quite as so deep as QXE when it comes to Widow Mine strategies.
Oh, okay.
Remember that game against the Founder from like a few months ago? Did any of you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played it. I played against that shit. It's the worst stuff.
What, you got to tell me. I missed this.
It's actually a Smash Widow Mine. Like
it was like a few months ago. He was practicing strategy. I'm not sure if he still does it. It was on Whirlwind. He built only Widow Mines for about 20 minutes, and he just
planetary fortresses.
Yeah, and planetaries and a few tanks for defense. And he would just
keeps
send out
expanding.
platoons of Widow Mines across the map. And Stefano's playing Roach Hydra. Every time he tries to defuse this platoon of Widow Mines, like half his army gets blown up. And it's so like attention draining. And then eventually after about 25 minutes, he's got half of Whirlwind on lockdown and this huge battlecruiser army. It was ridiculous.
What the hell?
I can't believe you haven't seen that. Yeah.
No,
I've
I
never
can't believe
gone
I didn't see that either. How did that pass me up? What was that
It was hilarious. It was just a
like
ladder,
a ladder
game or something. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But it was really funny because Stefano's just like trying to multitask 4 or 5 places at once and just failing at it because there's Widow Mines dropping in 2 spots at every single moment because it's QXC and there's like just groups of 5 or 6 just walking across the map constantly. There's just these trails of Widow Mines. And like you just can't fight that with Roach Hydra. It just doesn't work.
No.
Like
it was
the whole time,
so funny.
the whole time you could see Stefano has this smoke on his face, like this is like the dumbest fucking shit that ever was invented by anyone.
Oh my
good,
god, that's
good watch.
I am going to find that later and give that one a watch. That's so funny. All right, Group D: Supernova, Maru, Trop, Kongho. Of course, Supernova already took out Kongho, looking fucking sharp, man. Supernova is like slaughtering nerds left and right. He hasn't lost a game yet this season. What do you guys think?
I didn't watch his TVPs, but I remember like back near the beta times, he was considered like the best Terran for a while.
That's right, he was. Yeah. I remember that. He was right up at the top of the ladder, hitting Greg all the time. What do you think, Greg?
And so
Wait, are we talking beta of HOTS or beta of Wings? What?
Wait,
no,
HOTS,
yeah, it was
HOTS.
it was HOTS beta, but
I don't remember playing him much in HOTS. I don't know. He's kind of one of those players, like, you know how a lot of Korean players will come over to the U.S., or I think he moved to Europe or something. He moved out of Korea, or he joined a foreign team. He did something that wasn't
He joined
completely Korean focused.
MTW for a bit.
Yeah. A lot of times that happens and they lose their practice structure and they just get kind of like very mediocre. That's happened to a lot of Korean players. It kind of felt like that was happening to him, and honestly I think it did for a while, but it definitely seems like he has come back from that. I don't know, he looks really good, which is surprising.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hope Maru makes it through again because I called him to be like the dark horse in the last group, and then he goes and beats all the people I like, so you might as well just go ahead and win everything then.
Best of ones, man. Best of ones are Mario's friend, though. I don't think he's going to do very well in a best of 3 format. I think he's going to get crushed in this group. If Kongho and Trap and Supernova all know how to defend hellbat drops and that sort of stuff, and 2-base Marauder Hellion pushes, I think they're just going to shut him down. Yeah, like he's a strong player, but I don't know. I think most of the Prime team's been pretty slow to adapt to HOTS. They're just starting to pick up now. Beyond's like their one guy who was like straight on top of it from the very get-go.
Indeed. He's very good at hellbats. Yeah, I think Trap and Supernova are going to come out of there. Just kind of what I'm feeling. So this round is kind of a funny format, and that's how I want to like segue into the last thing that I really want to talk about while I still get you nerds sitting here. It's like, here's a question about the formats, because you're all pro gamers, and I want your takes on this, because there was a lot of to-do about the best one format. We did talk about that a little bit a couple weeks ago. But what's a better StarCraft tournament? There's like matches that are way in advance. Like, for instance, the GSL bracket rounds, you play like 1 match a week or whatever it is, and you have forever to prepare for that. Like right now in OSL round of 16 plus, you have 1 match and on that day, and so you get to practice for that, and you're not playing again until the next week. Whereas, and then there's other ones. There's like a kind of middly one where like normal GSL round of 32 and 16 groups where you have 3 players to prepare against, and then you just play 2 or 3 matches that night. And then, of course, there are the more random type of matches, like a Winners League format, a GSTL format, or one of these big weekend events like an MLG, DreamHack, etc. So that one is like kind of you're just like, well, there's a huge field of players that I could play against. What do you guys think is the actual best format for professional StarCraft? Is it 1 match you're preparing for, a small set of matches that you're preparing for, or just the completely random bonkers weekend type of thing?
Well, do you mean in terms of game quality, or for the players,
I
or
mean everything.
for hype?
For
Let's
everything.
just discuss it, every aspect, I guess.
Well, if it's
Uh.
everything, then it's everything. Like everything has its strengths and weaknesses, and it
Yeah,
even depends on you as.
Does it really though?
Yeah.
So like
Uh,
a best of one has its strengths.
Well,
No.
what depends on who you are as a player. If you're Maru, then yeah, it has a lot of strengths because, like you said, for
Okay.
everything. Like if
Alright.
you're a cheesy player, if you're good at designing strategies, if you're a Protoss, then yeah, best of one is really good for you.
He says as 7 of 8 Terrans get through the best of one stage.
Well, I mean,
Right.
everything's good for Terran. They still have Hellbats.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's true. Okay. Any other thoughts on this, you guys? About what would you guys personally prefer for the format? Like, would you rather prepare for one match a week, or would you rather go into that marathon of events, or have a group of 4 that you just prepare for?
It's interesting because I feel like if you're looking at the spread out event, you're giving the players time to prepare for their matches. Obviously, you're going to get higher quality games. You're going to also, I think, speed up the evolution of the metagame when you give players more kind of like you've got a match every week and you're spending a week focusing just on that matchup. I think people spend a lot more time focusing on their builds and you get these really, really sick, interesting, unique builds. I also think what that does is it allows your training environment to become more important even than it already is. Obviously, it's always important to have people around you who you can work with and share builds and stuff. But I think the sort of really disciplined Casper environment, you've got, I don't know, about 14 players on a team, I'm guessing. I'm not too sure. I think you're going to have this great environment for like, all right, you're just practicing this matchup for a week. You've got these other 3 or 4 dudes of your race in the house. They're going to help you come up with a build or work on your understanding. And I think that becomes even more important when you are dealing with a specific matchup at a time. So I don't know, like I feel like no matter what, you're going to get higher quality games. But I think if you've got a really good training environment, you've got a team house, it's going to go up another level once again. So I think in the foreign scene, where we don't really have many training houses, most of us just kind of chat on Skype or forums and whatever. We just kind of share builds when we think of them. But most of it's done on your own as a pro gamer. You kind of just figure stuff out on your own, watch the top games, copy builds, and adjust them. Yeah, man. So like, I really think it would be cool myself to be able to just practice for a match every week for some ongoing league. Like that would be so sick. But at the same time, I think I'd probably get even more frustrated at having to kind of find practice partners online and not having people in a house that I can just like talk to and be like, dude, I'm fucking stuck with X unit. It just keeps killing me.
And
Yeah.
conversely, you'd have to reinvent yourself every week.
Yeah, because the other end of things is that you get studied a lot more and you get prepared for. So you also have to
Exactly,
take that
like-
into account.
Like a fortnight in Pro League, Flash will be doing macro builds against Protoss. Next fortnight, he's proxying everything.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So, like, maybe the better format for the pro gamers in Korea is kind of the Korean format of preparing for matches, and then in the foreigner scene, it's actually these big one-up tournaments where your general ladder practice is going to count a lot more. Is that a fair enough
Yeah.
way to look at it?
Yeah, I mean,
I think
well,
so.
well, it's good that we don't have too many like ongoing leagues. Like we have all the WCS stuff. Like the EU's, just all the WCS stuff. You know what it is, and it's good that we're not trying to juggle like 3 or 4 leagues that go on because that's fucking hard.
Oh.
Like that's a lot of shit you gotta pay attention to.
Of course.
Whereas an
It
MLG is like a weekend. Like Pult's cool, good, done. That's the weekend. Pult is awesome. Natty was, the Great White Hope.
Oh. I actually.
Oh fucking hell! Fantasy's getting wrecked. Where are all these storms coming from?
That's very true. I know, right? It's just like you were talking about before. The more I talk to you, Iaguz, the more I look forward in like 10, 15 years. I hope that you just have like no education, so you have to work in esports, because I'd love to see you in charge of something, whether that's like game design or a tournament or something. Just the way you look at the world is very interesting to me. So
Thank you.
Again, I'm not sure if
Yes.
that's a compliment or not.
it's a compliment. It is, believe it or not. That
I hope
was
you don't get educated. They fucking
yes.
chip your whole
I
life.
hope you don't go.
I hope you're
You're the
forced to
opposite
work
of
in
my
this field,
parents,
so it
man.
amuses me.
Yes,
You're the
exactly.
opposite
Because
of my
God
parents.
knows I'll still be here. So, all right. Well, that's all I got. You guys have anything else you want to bring up before we head up to the shout outs?
Don't really think so.
I reckon that'll do it.
No? All right. Excellent. Well, it's time to jump those shout outs then. Iaguz, go ahead.
Hold on. I gotta find my list. Someone else go.
Okay.
I can never remember.
Idra, what are give us your shout outs, man.
Follow me on Twitter at Idra. Like my page on Facebook, Idrajit, Idrajit, and watch my stream, also Idrajit. And tomorrow is subscriber arcade game day, so you can watch or play Star Strikers and all that other stuff. You know, apparently Star Strikers actually has like a really competitive community, and there's like
Does it?
tournaments for it and stuff. Yeah, it's kinda-
I don't even know what it is. I've heard
Oh,
of it.
it's like a soccer game, and you can play a unit, and then you have a couple of abilities. I don't know. It's simple and kind of fun.
So it's like LOL soccer or something?
Kind of. That's a stretch, but there's some similarities, I guess. Yeah. And then on Thursday, Juan will be back coaching me Terran, so watch that on stream as well.
Sick. When are you going to go Protoss and who's going to coach you?
Nah, fuck Protoss. I can't do that. I hate the playstyle so much. Plus PvP. I don't feel anyone really understands PvP anyway, so I don't feel any kind of obligation to understand it as a caster. I just say like, he's making units.
Oh, look at that. It's Blink against DTs. Okay. All right. Good shout-outs. Pig, shout-outs.
Yeah, just to my team, Exile 5, and all the sponsors, Western Digital, CM Storm, these glowing headset dudes. I don't know the other sponsors, Cooler Master, Nvidia, a few other guys. Just anyone watching. Yeah, if you find me not completely unbearable, follow my stream, Facebook, Twitter. It's x5_pig for Twitter and the stream on Twitch, and the Facebook is just pigsc2. I'll post that in the chat, actually, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right.
And
Sponsor plugs
Iaguz.
are for Razer, Patriot, Game Traders, and more recently Umart. My stream is Twitch/MFIguz. My Twitter is Ethan Iaguz Zoo Guy. And yeah, that should be it. I haven't really been streaming much recently because I get really paranoid about people looking at my builds. Like,
That's right. You have that tournament coming up. That
yeah,
is-
the big Adelaide.
That happens,
That's
man.
gonna be fucking great.
It's like us
I'm gonna
USA
kill
guys
some Zugs.
practice together so much until right before the tournament, then everyone just fucking stops playing each other and like hides on Smurfs and stuff. So I get you. But guys, definitely check out all these guys on their streams and their Twitters and stuff. Really great conversations. Thank you so much, guys, this week. Big cheers to Simpatico, Simon, our producer, because he's really, really sick right now, and he still did the show, which is very sweet of him, because otherwise people would be like, Amanda dying, there's 2 weeks, no show, oh my god. So that was nice, he saved me from that. And big cheers to my sponsors, TT Esports and iBuyPower. They are badass, my PC right there. I've been streaming a lot, oh yeah. I'm going to make a blog soon about the design of the TT Esports mouse. It's really picking up. So that's going to be fun. And yeah, I'll be streaming maybe tonight. So please go ahead and hit a follow on my stream if you want to check out some awesome Protoss play. So that's it. And thank you so much for watching, guys. And we'll see you later.